Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of your favorite podcast. I remain the one and only Oluwatobi Aigboru, representing the culture with this my lovely outfit. Even though Labake did not compliment me, I compliment myself.
I haven't even spoken. I was going to comment.
Yeah, right. Anyways, welcome, guys. We are so excited to have you back on the podcast. How are you, Labake?
I am well. Hi, everybody. I've missed everybody. I've missed being on the podcast. I've missed kind of chatting here. I am well. The year has gone by really quickly. We're halfway through the year at this point, which is a bit scary. Yes, I feel like time's moving so fast. And I know that I say that all the time on the podcast, but it's just the reality of it. But I am well, trying to take stock of what's happened so far in 2025 and how we can kind of accelerate that in the second half of the year. I thought it's been a very, very eventful year.
Yeah, it's been. And before we move into the conversation, we want to sincerely apologize to our listeners, our followers, for the break in transmission. If you look at my face, you could see spots. I got beaten, battered, bamboozed. Triple B. Yes, by chicken pox. And so that's why there's been a break. And thankfully, I am well. I'm better now.
We're glad to hear it.
I still got some spot on my face, but we can't keep you guys waiting for so we sincerely apologize for the long break in transmission. And we're back to serve you everything as we always do. And also, as a favorite, I have to make sure that I keep up with, the energy, the vibe, and even though Labake cannot match it, but
favorites is not by mouth. If you call yourself the favorite every episode, and I mean 3 seasons in, no one's confirmed it, I think you should let it go now.
No, but really, we sincerely apologize for the break. And we are back running on our normal schedule and ready to give you guys, again, we are not a gossip podcast, I would say juicy gist, but informed and keep you informed and keep you enlightened on what is going on around the world of sustainability and climate change. And we are so excited to be back. Yeah. And yes, I'm just so excited to be back doing one of the things that I love to do.
Awesome. No, Toby said it all. We're excited to be back. We're sorry to have been gone for so long. And we have really exciting episodes coming up. So stay tuned. And we're back to regular programming.
Even though I don't know how to sing, when you said we've been away for so long, this song came to my head. It's been so long that I hardly seen your face. But anyways, we'll keep that for the Grammys.
Singing is not going to make you the favorite.
We'll keep that for the Grammys and the BET, not for the podcast. And I know Labake has been pushing me to get into the studio to release my EP, but I have a lot of things going on. Music is not a thing for now. But yes. Anyways, Labake, what have you been up to? How have you been?
What have I been up to? I have been attending quite a couple conferences. Which has been really interesting. So one thing I will say is, with conferences, I don't go to a lot by any stretch of the imagination, at least in comparison to a lot of working professionals. But when I do go to conferences, I did notice in the past that not a lot of conferences, particularly themed and business ones, had a lot of conversation around climate, around, ESG topics. I mean, it can be questions that are included in certain panels, but it was very rare to see like a whole panel dedicated to ESG or climate at a conference. Particularly a mainstream business conference. But then quite a few of the conferences that I've been to this year have really centered ESG and climate. And I wonder if that has to do with us being a better informed society around this, us prioritizing this more, or if it has to do with the fact that mainstream climate and ESG is kind of a mainstream topic right? With
Okay.
things like, companies pulling back on their commitment, things like, what's going on around, the language and the commitment to, climate programs and
Yeah.
funding from the US and, its partners. So I wonder if that's part of why it's such a hot topic conversation, or we've actually just built that consciousness to a certain point, and so it is now very much a part of like mainstream professional conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just something I was mulling on. So what have I been doing? I've been going to a couple of conferences, just working, pushing through. I mean, it's been a very, very eventful year.
Yeah.
It's also been a very uneventful year in some ways as well. So yeah, just keeping it pushing, keeping it pushing. How about you?
Oh.
Other than being sick, we're glad to hear you're feeling much better.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I've been trying to stay indoors so I don't infect other people. Apart from that, again, now that I'm getting better, I'm back into work, into the system, getting things done, and going for. I've never been a hat lover, but now I have a friend who has been doing some art exhibitions, and I've been like, oh, okay, picking one or two things from it,
Interesting.
and it's been great. And what else have I been doing? Walking. And so I recently joined. I'm always someone who's big on Africa. So I recently joined a friend who is running like this diaspora platform where people in the diaspora raise money to support projects in Africa. And so I just recently also joined him among the many things that I do to see how we can fundraise and help them fundraise for many projects that they do. Because I think one thing that drew my attention to it was their level of transparency, because on their websites, you see how many people have given, you see where the money is going to. They call themselves villagers. People who give money will decide they'll vote on the project. You see how much is coming out, how much is coming out. And so it's just that level of transparency. And for someone who has been in the charity sector for many years, to see that was something that I've been preaching for many years in terms of transparency when it comes to charity, and to see a charity doing it. And I had to just like, oh yeah, let me come in and help you with your fundraising. It's been great so far. Looking forward to the exciting journey ahead, supporting them to achieve what they want to achieve. So yeah.
That's exciting, guys. Toby does a lot of really, really cool stuff. He literally has like 10, 15 jobs. Don't know how he does them all. Is your outfit today in representation of your work with the African diaspora?
Oh yes, everything that has to do with Africa, I'm big on it in terms of development, in terms of contribution. And so this is a Nigerian outfit. I can't remember the name they call it, but it's called not Adiwe. Tie and dye is what? What do they call tie and dye? Yes, Adiwe, yes, locally made material from Nigeria. And as always, someone who always preach development in Africa. And sometimes you also have to rep the culture.
Yeah, to support, yeah.
Exactly. And so yeah, I just got this as a couple of pieces, and maybe you guys will see more of it on the podcast,
To be honest, that's not a bad shout at all. That is not a bad shout. I also wanted to say, actually, while you were speaking, one thing that I've also been working on is our new edition of the Africa Sustainability magazine, which has actually been a very interesting experience. And I'll touch on it a little bit more in another episode, maybe.
No, touch on it on this episode. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. No, but what I was going to say is, from conversations with quite a few people, one thing that has really stood out around the magazine, which I think is an unintended effect on our part, is that we do need a lot more sustainability communications platforms, right? Particularly those that center and amplify Africa. And I just feel like that's what we're trying to build with the Africa Sustainability magazine. That was our intention going in. But what I mean by it's been an unintended consequence is I didn't realize how much of a gap was in the space. And I didn't realize the breadth of work that, the magazine can actually do. And so our third edition, which is coming out in June, which when it's out, I will definitely share, is kind of exploring sustainable infrastructure in Africa. And I've had really, really cool conversations around, sustainable infrastructure in Africa, what some of the challenges are, what some of the gaps are, opportunities even, and people doing really, really innovative things around, the financing side, but also the sideways on the word, but the execution side. And so this issue is actually quite a it's an extensive issue, right? We have a lot of content. We have a lot of partners with universities, with organizations that have produced content for this edition. So it's really exciting. But I think I'm really excited about the magazine project. Okay. Yeah, so if there's anybody in any way that is interested in something to do with the magazine, please reach out, because I'm still trying to shape the impact of the magazine. And I feel like there's really a space for it, particularly in Africa, around amplifying, what sustainability means and is in Africa. And I'm really looking forward to kind of growing that. So yeah, that's another thing I've been working on.
Well, also, and guys, you guys need to check out the magazine. The link will be put in the, how do they put that in English? The link will be added to the description. So please click the link. And just to pull it back on the spot, like, can you just tell our listeners what exactly the ARO initiative is all about? So guys, Labake runs this amazing sustainability advisory company called the ARO Initiative, and they've also produced the magazine. So Labake, just tell us the amazing things you guys do at ARO Initiative.
Thank you so much for putting me on the spot. The ARO Initiative is a sustainability and impact advisory firm. So what we do is, or our main kind of goal is to build capacity for sustainability integration with African businesses. So we help with everything to do with sustainability. So from strategy to building out like roadmaps to setting targets, measurable targets, to building out the data infrastructure around managing and measuring your sustainability performance as an organization, to impact portfolio management for investor funds, kind of helping your portfolio companies to measure and manage the impact of their organization, and impact reporting. So we help companies and funds produce impact reports that then tells the story of kind of the impact that they're having as an organization. And that ties in yet again to this conversation around sustainability comms, right? This storytelling. There are a lot of organizations that are doing really interesting things, that are doing really innovative things, but they don't have the platform, they don't have the opportunity to tell that story. And storytelling is pretty much the centerpiece of everything, right? If you can tell your story, you can have somebody believe in that story and kind of be committed and dedicated to that story, and helping you to grow that story, whether it's through funding, whether it's through like human resources, whatever it is. And so being able to create a platform where African innovators, African investors, development practitioners, and all the relevant stakeholders can tell the story of sustainability as it relates to them, their vision, and kind of their communities, I think is a really important kind of space to be in. So yeah, that's what we do.
All right, thank you so much, Labake, for coming on the podcast, since I've turned this to a conversation with Labake. But yes,
I know, guys, let's move on quickly.
So guys, please check out what they do. And so yeah, so straight into the news, Labake, what do you have for us? I love that look on your face. Trust me.
So this is one reason why I'm definitely the favorite, because everybody can see how you pick on me on this podcast, right? News today. So one of the first things that's caught my eye, and I feel like I flag this in almost every episode where I talk about the news, but one thing that's caught my eye recently is the Financial Times, their climate division, has reported that global temperature is expected to rise nearly 2 degrees centigrade in the next 5 years.
Wow.
Which is, the World Meteorological Organization kind of highlighted, right?
Yeah.
And it just makes me think, if it's going to reach 2 degrees centigrade in the next 5 years, we're supposed to be taking it down to less than 1.5 by 2030. That's the Paris Agreement, right? So not only are we so far off our mark or so far off our target, we're actually exceeding what that is. And that's something that has been kind of really interesting to me, because we're halfway, 5 years to 2030. There's COP30 happening later on this year. We're 5 years to the SDGs. Like, there's so much conversation around our progress this year. But, the scientists are reporting that, we might be making some progress, but there's still
what needs to be done.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And it's kind of raising this question around, are we actually making progress, or are we getting a little bit fatigued by the climate, conversation, or the climate programming, if you will? But that's kind of one piece of news.
And it's just so sad to see that rather than it's reducing, it's actually increasing, because even the green gas levels are also at a record high. I think is it carbon dioxide was accumulating faster than ever before, and so this shows that everybody needs to rise up, because there are a lot of extreme weather events, including wildfires, that will happen this year, and it's almost summer in some part of the world, and so it just shows that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, and the earlier we all wake up to that reality, the better for us, because we don't want to say, oh, we're not prepared for it. What can we do to mitigate this effect or to reduce it to? Because if you're working towards reducing it below 1.5, and they're telling us that the next 5 years is going to get to 2 degrees, then that shows that there's no progress, right? And so what can we do to reduce it? And I think everybody needs to come together to join in these fights to say, okay, what exactly are we doing that is making it to increase rather than it reducing? And it just shows that there's a lot that needs to be done, really.
Yep. What have you seen in the news that you want to highlight?
I've seen many things, many things.
Where should we start? Should we start?
I saw that there was a report of wildfires in Canada, with evacuations have been ordered in some areas. There's also a glacier collapse in Switzerland, which resulted in a village being buried, and flooding is an ongoing concern. And it's just so sad. You see, when you read these things, you just keep asking yourself, the conversations we are having, it shows that these conversations are not enough. And so the question I ask myself is, okay, what else can we do? How can we enlighten people more? How can people take action? What exactly are we not doing that needs to be done? It looks like so sometimes you just want the gods to just come and give you, this is the solution, do it. And when you do it, you get what you want. But it just shows that everybody at this point in time needs to rise up. Oh, I don't know, so when I say something, some songs just comes to mind. I'm like, no, Toby, no, not today. But yes, that's also something that I've seen in the news, and yeah, I just wanted to share that while we continue.
While we're on the topic of weather, England and Wales apparently have recorded their driest starts to the year in decades, with river levels well below historic averages, and reservoirs have depleted, fueling fears of a summer drought, which I think is so interesting. And I'll say why in a minute. But by this metric, 2025 has been the driest year since 1997, and the 7th driest year on record since data began in 1931.
Wow.
Why I think this is so interesting is because England is known to be a rainy, gloomy country, right? It's always rainy. And the thought of a drought is in England is even, it's a bit funny. It's not supposed to be funny, it's a smidge. But yeah, so these are one of the effects of, kind of the temperature rise that we're talking about, right? And the knock-on effect of like a drought on crop yields, on like extreme weather. There's limited cooling in places like Europe, where temperature rise has like significant health risks, poses significant health risks to the population, stuff like that. Is quite alarming. But yeah, that's in line with, the Paris Agreement, like I was saying, the deadline for submitting the nationally determined contributions, so the NDCs, which is submitted every 5 years. The deadline was 10th of February. Yeah, and as of the last time I checked in preparation for this episode,
Yeah.
only 17 countries had submitted their NDCs.
Out of how many
right?
again, please?
195.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, I think it would be really interesting to see kind of because the NDCs are somewhat of a progress report.
Yeah.
They kind of outline the climate action plans for each of the countries, their targets for the next 10 years. Yeah. And if only 17 countries have submitted theirs at this point, um, it's interesting to see, you know, what that number would look like, towards the end of the year, but also why have they not? Like, is this a sign of, reducing commitment? Is
Yeah.
it a sign of, climate fatigue, if you will? Does this have anything to do with what's been happening in the media and how, countries are approaching the targets that they're setting, and resource allocation towards that and all of that? But I thought that was really interesting to note, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that.
Awesome. Nice. Imagine going on holiday, right, on vacation, and they tell you, oh, you have to pay a level of tax, and the tax is to counter climate crisis. That is what Hawaii is about to do. They plan to tax vacation stays and use the money to help counter climate crisis. And the tax is expected to generate nearly $100 million annually. And this will be used for projects such as replacing sand on eroding beaches, and which I think is really cool, to be honest. Yeah. And this was something that was signed by the Hawaii governor, to boost the tax imposed on hotel rooms, vacation rental stays, in order to raise money to address the consequences of a climate crisis. And it's the first time in the government is imposing rather such levy to help cope with a warming planet. And the officials also estimate that the tax will generate, like I mentioned, 100 million annually, and the money will be used to for projects such as replenishing sand on eroding Waikiki beaches, promoting the use of hurricane clips to secure roofs during powerful storms, and also, what else did the governor say? That other states and nations will need to act similarly to basically address the climate disasters eroding the planet. And I think for them, that is one way that they think that they can provide solution to what exactly is going on. And it also says that the measure will add an additional 0.75% to the daily room tax, and just an extra £3, extra $3 rather, on hotel room. So I think this is good.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was in Mexico last year, the hotel that I stayed at had something very similar. So it was a hotel in a mangrove, and there was like an ecosystem charge that was added to your room charge that was to use to maintain the ecosystem of the mangrove that the hotel was in.
Nice.
So yeah, so I think it's a great idea.
Let's see if other countries will follow suit. And hopefully, when it comes to Dirty December, countries where people go for Dirty December can also tax people to do the same. Another news I saw, we know where the money will go to, but anyways, there's going to be one winter has been forecasted for Australia, and the Prime Minister suggests that this will be a unseasonal fire risk during this period in Australia.
Wow.
Yes, it says the winter will be warmer and wetter this year, with higher than average day and night temperatures above the average rainfall, likely in some interior part of the country. And the meteorological agency called the Bureau of Meteorology, the long-range forecast said that part of its tropical north and south could expect typical winter rainfall, including the coastal area of New South Wales. And the forecast also shows that it will be warmer than average for northern and eastern Australia. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this is now a lot of countries are experiencing the not normal season, and this has happened a lot of times in England, where you think that summer is here, and before you know it, boom, you see the rain, and you keep asking yourself what exactly is going on. And so it now begins to go into other part of the world. And I think it's time, right? It's time for every country to start asking themselves, okay, these things are not normal anymore. What are we doing? If you're doing something already, kudos, but what can you do to increase your efforts in tackling or battling this climate crisis that we are facing around the world? And I just saw one news I wanted to say, but I know Labake does not like this guy, and this is not a climate-related news. And so I'll just let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
And let's share that one on our social media. So if you want to see the news that Toby's talking about, go to our Instagram. Subscribe podcast, and he will share it on there for you.
Well,
yeah. One thing that I also thought was interesting is US Republicans released a draft legislation that would end renewable energy subsidies and scrap tax breaks for electric vehicle purchases. The bill would scrap a $7,500 tax credit for buyers of EVs after 2026 and a $4,000 credit for secondhand EVs from the end of this year. So basically, it's winding down tax credit for most renewable energy investment and production by 2031, rather than tying the expiry to emission goals. So basically, they're discouraging people from buying electric. No, are they discouraging? But they're no longer encouraging. Let's put it that way. They're no longer encouraging and incentivizing people to buy EVs based off of tax breaks and subsidies. Interesting.
And I just saw something now that makes me wonder.
Toby's a jukebox today, everybody.
I saw a news that the European Union is nearly on track to reach its main climate target for this decade.
What is the target and how are they on track to meet?
So the EU is on course to reduce its net greenhouse gas emission by 54% by 2030. Compared with the 1990 levels, just shy of its legal binding goal of 55%. The Commission is said in an analysis of existing policies in the EU and member countries, and the analysis showed that governments have upped their efforts to curb emissions in the last 2 years, even as a lot of government faces political backlash from countries demanding the EU weaken its green agenda. And it also says that Europe is the world's fastest warming continent, with crop-wrecking floods and deadly wildfires linked to climate change. Eating the EU
Europe is the world's fastest
warming continent. Yes, yes, that's what it says. And it also says that, but with industries from high energy prices after Russia slashed its gas deliveries in 2022 and the prospect of a US tariff, the EU faces mounting calls for government to soften the greenhouse measures for struggling businesses. And the commissioner lastly saying that the EU would invest more in clean technologies to ensure that the industries can prosper from Europe's green transition. Kudos to the
Interesting. So parallel kind of policy.
Yeah.
From the allies. Yeah. And that's all we're going to say on that.
Nothing more, nothing less.
No. Very interesting. I think there's a lot, like we said, there's a lot that's been happening in the news. I think there's a lot more that we haven't even covered.
Yeah.
But this is just some of the news, some of the things we kind of wanted to touch on in our
one last episode. One last thing that I want to say is that in Germany, solar shines as the Germany's top electricity source, which is interesting. Solar farms are set for a record stretch of power sector dominance in Germany after becoming the single largest generation source in the country at the earliest point of the year ever. And it also says that the solar farm generated more power than all generation sources. And this is according to the data that was compiled by a group called the LSEG. Sadly, I don't know what that is. That does not ring a bell. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out to see that, oh yeah, that's actually a great news. And also says that if solar plants remain the single largest power source through August, that would mean that Europe's largest economy could be primarily powered by solar farms for 5 straight months, with fossil fuels playing only a backup role. Is that not amazing? That's really good. That's really good. So yeah,
I love it.
You can continue your closing. Sorry for breaking that. All right.
No worries. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to share some of the things that we've kind of taken note of in the past few weeks that we've been gone. Come back on your Spotify and YouTube channels.
Yeah.
To apologize for the break in transmission. Yeah. Let you know that we're back.
We are back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Back. We know you like that.
I saw that coming. Don't get us flagged for copyright, okay?
True.
Thank you.
True.
Yeah, but Toby, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be doing this again. And we promise to be consistent.
Yes.
Consistent.
Yes. We have really exciting guests lined up.
Yeah. And big shout out to our guests who have agreed to reschedule due to my illness. And so, yes, we have exciting guests with you guys. Just sit back, relax, and we'll be giving it back to back to back. But yeah.
Okay. Let me save you guys from the jukebox energy today. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and see you on the next episode of the podcast.
Bye, everybody.